Again, I am not a chef. This is about storytelling and gratitude. So let's get started. I'm getting started with my rice. It's asking for a little bit of just rice and water. Okay, so we're gonna get that started. So let's start with this story. So when I was in my late 20s, and that was quite some time ago, in my late 20s, I worked in banking for quite a while. And as I worked in banking, there was a job, a big company. It was a financial institution that navigated and relocated to Denver, Colorado. They came out of New York. Now everybody was talking about this. All my friends, that I knew were like, "Ooh, you got to get on with this job." And so I was with the bank at the time. I won't name the bank because it's not necessary. But let me turn this down because I don't want anything to happen. But I was with this bank, and they were actually relocating out of state, and those who stayed until the very end would get a big severance package. And so we kind of already knew what our severance package is, but we had to stay to the end. So I was like, I'm going to stay to the end. Well, one of my colleagues, who also became my friend, and she's still my friend today. We don't see each other as much, but I consider her a friend. She got on at this company and she kept saying, "Ladios, you really need to get on at this company." I said, "Okay." So I interviewed for that company in another financial industry company that was out in Centennial. Now this was, like I said, late 90s, about 97, 98, and the light rail was still relatively new, so it wasn't going anywhere. Now as this rice is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start putting the chicken into the pan that I'm going to put into the oven. Alright, again, I've already marinated it. It's already seasoned very good. I season my food. Oh my god. These are chicken thighs. I don't care for breasts. These are thighs. And I'm not really a chicken person per se. I really, really, really like turkey. Anyhow, and lamb. I told you guys about the lamb. So I interviewed for that company, and they wanted to make me an offer. So the other company that I also interviewed, they also made me an offer. So I had two financial industry companies that I got an offer for. So naturally, I was going to try to get the company that was here in downtown Denver because it was way closer. The other one was way out in Centennial, and you're talking about the drive. Now the commute wasn't as bad as it is now. Whew, it was rough. It's rough now, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. Anyhow, so with that, I'm going to put a little water. I don't really need much, but just a tad bit of water. And then I'm going to put this in the oven. Now, what I would like to do is cover this just for a little steam. Let me see if I have a top. I do, but this top is not allowed to go in the oven. So I'm going to cover it in some foil. Okay, we're going to cover it in foil. All right, back to the story. So the one in Centennial was offering me more money. So I was like, let me get on my negotiation piece. So I ended up talking to the people in Denver, and they wanted to start me at one thing. And I was like, well, hey, I said, how about, I said, I'm not sure. I think I might go with this other one. I said, because they're offering me a little bit more money. I said, honestly, the thing is, no, I didn't even mention the other company. I'm sorry. I take that back. What I said was, it's kind of noisy. Covered. We're going in the oven. All right, that's on 400. Okay. So what I said was, so that's a little low. So I wanted to see if I can get it comparable to the other one, what they offer. I didn't even tell them I had another job offer. What I said was, they're planning to give us a severance package, and so that's going to be a big severance, and so I'm going to lose that if I leave this job. Can you give me this, which was comparable to what was in Centennial? And they did. So it was great. It was phenomenal. So I got the job, but when I interviewed for the job with the manager, he said, I don't know if I really, because I'm kind of scared to hire you because you're overqualified for this role. And I said, That's okay, but I'm the right man for the job. He said, okay, if I give you this job, will you promise to stay here for at least 1 year in the department before you seek elsewhere within the company? I said, absolutely. And so, again, now fast forward back to the job offer. So I started the job. I loved that position. It was so fun. I loved the people I worked with. There was 3 guys that I would always hang out for lunch. Their names were, well, I'm going to just give you them. Larry, and Joe. And we just had fun. There's some great women that I worked with. So fast forward, about 10 months in, there was a position that opened in another location. And I was like, wow. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, I really would like to apply for this role. I have a great stellar review, great attendance, great stats. And I was like, I don't know when the opportunity would come again. Would you allow me to go? He's like, yeah, I got you. So I posted and posted and applied for the position. Now there were other females, like my colleagues who were females who applied for that position as well. All right, I'm gonna get the fish and get that going. Let me just dump some. I gotta figure out this tripod. It's supposed to move when I move, but something is wrong. But I'll figure it out. So I'm gonna get the fish ready. So I'm gonna put the oven on with the fish. I'm gonna put this back up. I'm a clean as you go kind of girl. So anyhow, I knew that some other colleagues of mine went for this role as well. And so I'm like, hey, this is great. I mean, they had been in the company longer than me. Again, I had only been there for 10 months. So I interviewed and went on the second and however many I had to go and I got the position. Now, again, I'm young. I'm in my, not 30s, but I'm over 25 for sure. So I'm in my later 20s. And so I'm a little naive. But all of a sudden, now my colleagues, not the guys, the girls, started treating me really not kind, like nasty. And I'm turning the oven on. I'm going to get ready to put a little bit of olive oil into the pan once the pan heats up. So this chef told me you always should warm up the pan before you start to add your food to it. He said it's almost like warming up a woman before you, well, we'll keep it honest. Anyway, you get the drift. Okay, I probably shouldn't have went there. So anyhow, so the girls, they were saying like not so kind things, and I was confident in what I did, but I was also still in that young stage where you're people pleasing and still trying to find myself. But when it came to work, I stood on work. Like I was a professional. I worked hard. I overachiever, above and beyond. I did whatever I needed to do with integrity. So all girls were saying all these horrible things, like they just felt sorry for me. That's why they gave me the role. And they said all kinds of other stuff. And I started to really second guess myself. Like, wow, did I really, earn this job? And so I went to HR and I really miss how businesses ran back then. They were so amazing. Like they really invested in their people back then. Things are so much different. In any event, so with that, I went to HR and we were getting the paperwork and I said, hey, I just want to know, did you guys really give me this role, or this is what's going on? And she said, Latios, you earned that position. You were the best candidate for this job. She said, don't let anybody get in your head. You're going to come through a lot of jealousy and envy, so you need to learn how to deal with that. I'm telling you, and you be confident with what I say. You earned this job, and you were the best candidate. And so after that, I was good. So anyhow, I go over to the job. I really liked it there. I loved it. And like I said, this was a different type of time when people actually invested in their employees. And so I was in that role for in that department there was 2 different sections. And so there's one section where we did one thing and then one section where they were they would take phone calls, but it wasn't for, like, you didn't have to have a Series 6 and 63, like be a registered rep. But they were light calls. They were light calls that you would take to verify and stuff. So I wasn't on that part of the section. I was in a different section.